Hello, and welcome back to BookBeat. Today we're going to continue with the Spenser series. This one is number 11, and it's called Valediction. Valediction, which means goodbye. We'll get to that in a moment. So, let me tell you about what's going on here. This is actually kind of a very interesting story in that it's unique. Numbers 1 through 11, all of them up until now are basically pointing forward to number 12, which is called A Catskill Eagle, and it's my favorite Spenser book. And it's kind of the dividing line in the entire series, the before and after of basically Spenser's relationship with Susan Silverman. So, but let me tell you a little bit about the story itself. Who's here? Well, we've got, some of the same people, the people that make the series so enjoyable, besides Spenser and Susan and Hawk. We've got Paul Giancomin, the young boy that Spenser helps out in early autumn. He's now gone on to become a dancer. And he's in Boston for the summer, dancing for a guy named Tommy Banks. And Tommy Banks' girlfriend, another dancer, Sherry Spellman, also shows up in the story. Spenser has another girlfriend because Susan is gone. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. And we meet for the first time here a lawyer named Rita Fiore, who actually we will meet many, many other times in the future too. Kind of a very tough but sexy lawyer. And bad guys, well, Vinnie Morris and Joe Brose show up again for the second book in a row. And we've got two new bad guys here, Bullard Winston, the leader of a religious group, and Mickey Paltz, his partner in crime and the leader, the president of a construction company. And basically this story takes place in Boston. So, what happens? Why has Spenser been hired? Well, Paul's girlfriend, Sherry, has been taken at gunpoint, he claims, by this religious group. They're called the Bullies because their leader is Bullard Winston, and they're basically a kind of a hard-nosed Christian group. And so they're known in these parts as the Bullies. So he comes to Spenser and wants Spenser to find her and bring her back. Spenser's a little dubious, like why not go to the police, that kind of thing. But the job is easy enough to find Sherry, and he goes about doing it. And it's what happens after that, actually, after he finds her, that most of the story and most of the detecting takes place. So what kind of action scenes do we have in this book? Yeah, actually, we've got quite a few. The best one and the most important one is near the very end of the book. A kind of a shocking, very shocking scene. And I'm not really going to tell you what happens there. I'll let you read that and enjoy. I don't know if I can use the word enjoy, but see how that goes. So we have some kind of scenes where, it's the usual thugs and the usual bad guys and the usual toughies, underestimate Spenser. And there are a few of those in here, and they're kind of fun. He always manages to be irreverent and in their face uh, during these scenes in all of the books, and it's one of the reasons we like him, right? And again, his scenes with the guys that are the leaders of the various groups are very well done too. The bad guys. There's a confrontation with Bullard Winston. There's a confrontation with Mickey Paltz. There's one or two confrontations with Joe Bros. And Spenser just doesn't give a shit. And it always surprises them that he's not afraid of them. And then, like I said, the big final scene is the one where all these guys come together, and Spenser has to deal with it. Okay, so surprises. Well, let me see. We got a lot going on here between Spenser and Susan. And right off the bat, let me tell you, you know how in all of these stories so far, the book opens with chapter 1. We jump right into it, and Spenser's in his office and the client walks in, or Spenser's at the client's home. All of these happen within the first 1, 2, 3 pages of the book. But guess what? In this book, it's not the first 1, 2, 3 pages where anything happens. It's not even the first 1, 2, or 3 chapters. Chapter 1, Susan graduates from Harvard. Chapter 2, Susan tells Spenser. Susan tells Spenser that she's leaving immediately. She's got a new job in San Francisco, and she needs to be away from him. And she doesn't even tell him her new address, and she walks out the door. And things have gone from bad to worse for Spenser, because he really loves Susan, and she is his life purpose. Chapter 3, Spenser has a long talk with Paul. Chapter 4, Spenser has a long talk with Hawk. And finally, in chapter 5, Paul comes to him and says, my boss needs you. His girlfriend has been taken. So a lot going on before things get going in terms of the mystery and the action. But guess what? It's deep and it's meaningful and it's interesting to read, and it's nothing you're going to get bored about, I don't think. I mean, it didn't bore me at all. In fact, there are scenes in this story, like in the previous story, that kind of, tear me up a little bit, choke me up. They're very touching. So anyway, things are not going well. Another surprise is, Linda. So this woman across the street, she's become his new girlfriend. But I mean, it's kind of like she's a pinch hitter for Susan, right? He loves her. She's good for him. He even tells Susan about her, and Susan says, "Oh, that's good for you. I'm really worried about you. So stick with that girl." Repeats. Well, hello to Rita Fury. Yeah. Rita is one of the great characters in the series. She goes from working in the DA's office to a bit later becoming basically the most respected and feared defense lawyer in the city of Boston. And she is super sexy, and she's always trying to get Spenser to go to bed with her. And he always manages to resist, but they're always teasing each other back and forth, book after book after book. So she's a really nice character. And yeah, we've got Vinny and Joe Bras here again. 2 books in a row. That surprised me a little bit. And yeah, here's Spenser again working for not all that much money, but basically following things through to the very end. I mean, that's who the guy is. He's got a heart of gold. He really is a pure-hearted guy. Um, Before I read some of my favorite lines to you real quick, let me just say that I'd give this 8 out of 10 stars, 8 out of 10 points. The storyline seems a little strange to me because we find out in the end, apparently, that it's the 20-year-old girl Sherry. Sorry to spoil this for you, but I think this is a minor part of the book, but it's also a weak part of the book. That it's the 20-year-old girl Sherry that was kind of running things. There's drugs and there's crime going on, and she's the one that's controlling these high-level gangsters. And it's like, really? I mean, it's probably one of the only times in the entire series that I read that and said, really? That doesn't make sense. So I don't know what to say about that, but the rest of the book is very, very good. So don't let that put you off. Um, but it was strange, and I needed to tell you about that. Just share my thoughts with you on that. So, okay. Let me share some Hawk and Spenser stuff with you to start off with here. So, yeah, Hawk is really, really worried about Spenser. He can see that this guy is just out of it, and Hawk's afraid Spenser's going to get killed. He just can't concentrate on anything, and and we can see how much Hawk cares about Spenser in this book. Absolutely, for sure. And Hawk goes. Spenser tells Hawk that she's in San Francisco and he doesn't know her address or phone numbers. So Hawk goes, "Want me to find her?" he said. "No, she's got the right to be private." "She got somebody out there?" Hawk said. "I don't know." "If she got somebody, I can kill him," Hawk said. I shook my head again. "She's got a right to somebody else," I said. Yeah, so, yeah, I don't know what to think about that. I mean, Hawk's in a sense a very simple person, but he's also a very complex person because we don't really understand what's going on in his mind. But he has become very, very faithful to Spenser, and Spenser has become very, very faithful to Hawk, and they would die for each other for sure. And so I think it's quite touching. One of the young women at the door was looking at Hawk. There was interest in her look and fear. "Take some balance," Hawk said. It was if he were thinking out loud. "Be like carrying a glass of water filled right to the top and not spilling any. Be a bitch." "Yes," I said. "This is something you can't fix," Hawk said. "You got to trust her to do it." "It's my life in some sense or other." Hawk nodded. "I'd trust Susan with mine," he said. I looked at Hawk's peaceful, deadly face, obsidian skin tight over intricate muscle and prominent bone. "Yes," I said, "I would too." So, um, Okay, next, Paul is talking with Spenser. He says, "You feel like working?" he said. "Have to eventually," I said. "One of the dancers in the company has disappeared. Cops been notified?" Paul shook his head. "Tommy doesn't want them. It's his girlfriend." "Why no cops?" "I don't know. It's a little strange, but I told Tommy I'd ask you. Are you ready to do something?" "I don't want you to do it unless you're ready." "Better than hanging around watching Family Feud," I said. Paul drank some beer from the bottle. "I knew you'd be enthusiastic," he said. The phone rang. I answered on the first ring. Susan's voice said, "Hello." It was difficult to get air in. I said, "How are you?" Paul looked at me and then got up and walked to the living room and turned on the television. "Good," Susan said. "I'm good. How are you?" "Functional," I said. "Sort of." "Paul still there?" "Yes, he'll be here all summer." Yeah, so they get off the phone and Spenser's in a funk again. Um, then Spenser finally meets up with this guy Banks who says his girlfriend's been taken. She's been taken by the Bullies. Paul looked more startled. "The religious group?" I said. "Yes," Banks said. "The Reorganized Church of the Redemption. You know about it, I assume." "I know that it exists, that its leader, Pope, Chief Wizard, whatever they call him, is a guy named Bullard Winston who believes in the church militant." "Yes," Banks said. "They've taken Sherry." "By force?" "Yes." "You didn't tell me that," I said to Paul. "I didn't know it," Paul said. "They broke in," Banks said. "5 of them, 3 men, 2 women, in berets and fatigue clothes. They had automatic weapons. One of them hit me with the butt of the weapon and knocked me down. I was half conscious. They grabbed Sherry, bound her, and took her away. I was able to get to the door in time to see them put her into the trunk of a car and drive away. Then I passed out." "And you didn't call the cops?" I said. Banks shook his head. I woke up and didn't know what to do, and I just walked around all night and came in the next day and said Sherry was missing. Why no cops? I didn't want this turned into a media circus like Patty Hearst. I didn't say anything. Paul was quiet, standing a little to the side. "And I didn't, you know how Patty Hearst's fiancé was treated in the press?" I nodded. "I was ashamed," he said. "I was ashamed that they were able to take her away from me, and I didn't stop them." 5 people with automatic weapons, I said. Hard to stop. Yeah, so it goes on like this, and Spenser eventually tracks her down, talks with her, realizes she doesn't want to go back, and realizes she's okay, but then a whole bunch of other stuff happens. And like I said, it's a pretty good story, except for that strange ending where we find out that this 20-year-old girl apparently has been kind of running and controlling the bad guy. So I don't know. Anyway, I am extremely, extremely excited because the next book is number 12, A Catskill Eagle. Can't wait to share that one with you. There's a lot of Hawk in it, a lot of Spenser, and a lot of action and a lot of really great lines too, more than any other book for sure. So thanks again for joining me, everyone, and see you next time. Take care.